What's up everybody? It's your boy Dillon, and today I am bringing you the Dolphins' first depth chart of the season, of the preseason. As you know, we have a game on Thursday, this upcoming Thursday, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It is our first preseason game, the first time we'll actually get to see the rookies, the undrafted free agents, the newcomers to the team, and the whole squad for the first time on the field against another team, so it's going to be great. I have the depth chart here, as you will see in the video, and so we will go over it, we will talk about it, and see, you know, the interesting things that they have here. So let's see, to start off with, we'll go ahead with the quarterback position. We'll start with Tannehill. Obviously, he is considered the starter. We all know that. There was no question there. But behind him, for the number 2 spot, as it's currently listed on the depth chart, is either David Phils or Brock Osweiler. As you can see in the image here of the depth chart, that there is actually an or in between David Phils and Brock Osweiler. So, you know, as Gase has mentioned, it is going to be a battle throughout training camp between those two for the number 2 spot. So we'll obviously have to keep an eye out for that. It'll be interesting to see. And then Petty is technically listed by himself on the 3rd team as the 3rd team quarterback. I personally think it's going to end up being Phils. I feel bad for old Brocky Osweiler. You know, he's not going to, I don't think he's going to end up being around, but I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But like I said, I think it's going to be Phils. Although it is interesting that they did put, or on the actual depth chart. Okay, so let's see. Going to the offensive line, we have, as expected, left tackle is going to be Laramie Tunsil. Left guard is to be Josh Sitton. Center will be Daniel Kilgore. Right guard will be Jesse Davis. And right tackle will be Juwan James. There's nothing of any significance there. We all expected that to be the case. So going into the backups right now, as it currently stands, the backup left tackle is what is his name? First name, Stirrup. I can't remember Stirrup's first name. I apologize for that. But Stirrup, the backup left guard is Ted Larson. Backup center is Jake Brendel. Backup right guard, who has been out with, I believe, a calf injury for the past few days. The backup right guard is Isaac Asiata, and there's actually no third, according to the depth chart, third backup behind him. So that's interesting, and hopefully Asiata is finally starting to kind of like come on and develop. I've heard a couple good things about him, but otherwise he's been relatively quiet. We all know there hasn't been much about him, on him, and we've all kind of been wondering because, we've been having, obviously, issues at the guard position, so we've been hoping he's going to develop, but hopefully he finally is and can give us some quality depth there. And then the backup right tackle is Sam Young. The third string offensive lineman currently listed, there's Eric Smith at left tackle, and then there's actually, I forgot the other, we have another one, I forgot his name too, I'm sorry, some of these other guys, I don't know their whole names. Joseph is listed as the 4th left tackle, and then there's Hilland behind Larson for 3rd left guard. Matthews, I want to say it's Jake Matthews, is behind Brendel for 3rd team center. As I said, there's no 3rd team right guard. And then Steinmetz is the 3rd team right tackle. So As of right now, that's kind of how it's shaking out. We don't really expect there to be any changes to the starting offensive linemen. Obviously, those backups could and will, change. Some of those guys won't even end up being on the team, obviously, so we'll see how all that shakes out. Okay, so let's go to running backs now. So for the starting running back, they have, as you can see here in the chart, Drake or Gore. So they're listing Drake and Gore as the first team running backs. Because I guess, well, look, I mean, at the bottom, at the end of the day, the bottom line is Drake is going to be, in my opinion, he's going to be the, starter. He's going to be the first man out there. Maybe not even the first man out there. I mean, he might not be out there on the very first play, especially on, in some games or whatever, but I definitely think he's going to have, the majority of the workload. He's going to have the most, production and stuff like that. But obviously Gore is going to get his looks, his carries, his touches. He'll get some, some blocks in the pass and run game. He'll get some catches out of the backfield. So, he's obviously going to be used. I personally think that this year it's going to be, Drake and Gore primarily. Balaj is gonna, I've said it before, Balaj will get a little more as the year goes on. And then there is, of course, obviously Sonoris Perry, and we have a couple other running backs on the roster currently. So as it stands right now, Drake and Gore are considered first team Drake or Gore. So, that is what it is. I guess later on down the road, once we actually get into the preseason, there will be a for sure, this guy is the starting running back and this guy is the backup, but we all know they're both going to get a lot of touches. And then they have Sonoris Perry actually listed as the third team right now running back, and Kalen Balaj is behind him as the fourth guy. And then I think it's Brandon Radcliffe comes up behind him, and Buddy Howell comes up behind him. So those guys are definitely, going to have a hard time making the squad. I think that some of these linemen and receivers and running backs, tight ends, whatever, that don't make the team, obviously we have a 10-man practice squad that we're going to have to fill up, so expect to see some of them there. Okay, so let's see. Going on to wide receivers, as it currently stands, this is how it shakes out. The starting wide receivers are Kenny Stills, Danny Amendola, and Devontae Parker. So obviously that means then that, Stills and Parker are going to be the outside guys, and Amendola will be the slot guy. So here's what's interesting though, because then this is how the depth chart shakes out currently behind them, and I actually think this could be quite similar to how you're going to see it in the regular season. Wilson is listed behind Stills. Grant is listed behind Parker. Isaiah Ford is listed behind Amendola. So let's think about that for a second. Albert Wilson is listed, and from everything we've heard in camp, Gase has even said that he's going to play on the outside. We know Grant plays out on the outside as well. He actually had some of his best games and best moments playing on the outside. I feel he actually probably does better on the outside because it's a little less complex. Obviously, there's more nuance and more things that go into being a slot guy. And then Isaiah Ford is listed behind Amendola for the slot. And frankly, I think this is actually how it's going to shake out into the season. And I think that it's very likely that those 6 guys will be the guys on the roster. Obviously, we know Stills, Amendola, Parker, Grant, and Wilson will be for sure, but I think that they're going to keep 6 on the active, or one of them may not be active for games, but I think 6 will end up fall onto the 53-man roster, and I think it'll be those. Now, coming up behind them, you have Carew is behind Grant, Rashawn Scott is behind Albert Wilson, and then Drew Morgan comes up behind Isaiah Ford to round out third-team wide receivers. And then you also have Malcolm Lewis, who then comes up behind Rashawn Scott, and Francis Owusu, who comes up behind Leonte Carew. So, we'll see which guys end up. Obviously, a few of those guys, I don't think Carew's going to end up making it on the squad. I don't think he's shown nearly enough. And I do think he is going to end up being gone. He has shown some things, this preseason, but unfortunately, and it sucks. Everybody's going to bitch and moan and gripe about how we moved up to get him. And sure, I get it, blah, blah, blah. But it is what it is. And so that's how it's going to be. All right, and then finally for the offense, let's go to tight end, which is rather interesting. And I think this will end up changing as time goes on, but it is what it is for right now. So Marquise Gray is listed as first team. He's listed as the starter. AJ Derby is listed as the number 2, then Gavin Escobar, then Thomas Duarte, then Gesicki, then Smythe. So Gesicki and Smythe are the 5 and 6. We all know those two are going to be on the team. They were drafted this year in the second and fourth rounds. So they're 2 of our first 4 picks in this year's draft. They're going to be around, but they're obviously rookies. They need to work on a lot of stuff. They need to get themselves up the depth chart. I guarantee you by the end of the preseason, not only will these 2 be up the depth chart, but they're going to be, both of them, I would say, will be probably in the top 3. Now, I personally think it'll end up shaking out. Gesicki is the number 1. Then I'm going to say Gray is the number 2. Then Smythe, then Derby. I think they'll probably keep all 4 of those guys, though. I don't think Escobar or Duarte are going to be around, but, we'll see how this all shakes out. I think they'll keep 4, Gray, Derby, Gesicki, and Smythe, and I definitely think Gesicki and Smythe will obviously move their way up the depth chart. They won't be, 5 and 6. But that is interesting to see, as it stands for right now, so we'll keep an eye on that. All right, so moving on to the defense. Now, let's see. For the defense, so we'll start up on the front, of the defensive line. We'll start up in the front. Let's see. So, okay. So, as it stands right now, for D tackles, you have, for your first starting D tackle, they have listed Jordan Phillips or Devon Godshaw. So we all know how that's been playing out. Jordan Phillips, obviously, he was second round pick a couple years ago now. Or a few years ago now. I think this is his contract year, if I'm not mistaken. So he has a lot to play for. He knows that. He's obviously had some knocks and some issues with being consistent over his time. Personally, I believe that he has gotten better, has gotten more consistent as, the years have gone on. It's been a bit slow, for sure, but I think he has gotten better and more consistent. I think they didn't pick up his They didn't sign him to a new extension yet. There hasn't been any talks about it yet, as far as I know. But he is going into a contract year. So they're giving him this year to play it out and see what happens. Because obviously we also brought in Akeem Spence this year. And we have Godshaw and Taylor, as well as a couple other, pretty solid defensive linemen. So they're giving him this year to show and to prove whether or not he deserves to get a contract. So, keep an eye on him. And then after this year, or sometime during this year, if they think he's playing well enough, expect to see a contract extension for him. Otherwise, he's going to become a free agent this upcoming offseason. But anyway, so they have Phillips or Godshaw listed. Godshaw obviously was a rookie last year, right? Last year, and he has shown some things. He showed some flashes. He showed some potential, some grit, some power, all that stuff. And obviously, you know, he's still got a few years left on his rookie contract, so he'll be around for a bit. But, you know, that's obviously going to be a competition to watch and see, you know, who ends up starting. Although, frankly, as we all know, the defensive line is going to be rotating a lot this year, so it doesn't really end up mattering. But, you know, it is what it is. It's still interesting to see who will come out, you know, on the first snap, I suppose. But they will rotate, and they're going to be fierce and hungry. So, the second D tackle starts off with Akeem Spence and has Vincent Taylor behind him. So I believe that those 4 guys for sure will be on the roster. After that, I don't know if we'll end up keeping any more D tackles. I kind of don't think so, because of the fact that we have, in my opinion, at least 5, if not 6 defensive ends that we're going to keep. So, but we'll see. I think for sure it's going to be Phillips, Godshaw, Spence, and Taylor. And then if Gabe Wright or Jemias Pittman or Anthony Moten, one of those guys, if they can step up and show this coaching staff that they deserve to be. But obviously, too, you know, you could see 1 or 2 of those guys on the practice squad as well. So we'll see how that shakes out. Okay, and then going to our defensive ends. Although, you know, I have to say that does, real quick, going back to the tackles, that does make sense. I see that being, honestly, I see that probably being how it is. Phillips and Spence will probably be the official starters with Godshaw and Taylor behind them, but they're obviously going to be rotating in. So for D ends, obviously for that, they're part of the D line, so they're also going to be rotating a lot. But the starters are currently listed as Cam Wake and Robert Quinn, which is how I expect it to be throughout the season. I fully expect them to be both listed as the starters, but obviously there will be, rotation up there, as I mentioned probably a million times now. So behind them, you have William Hayes and Charles Harris as the second team guys, which is rather interesting because Andre Branch has been pushed back to third team, but that's not totally unexpected. He was hurt a bit last year. He's healthy now, but even, and we did sign him to that contract extension, so I do think they'll keep him around for a while, for at least probably another year after this. But it's possible at some point in the near future they could end up getting rid of him, especially because, we have Charles Harris coming up. Quinn's only 28. He's in, what would be the prime of his career, or, somewhere in there, and he could still have several more years of good football in him, so he could be someone that we look to as a staple for going forward. Obviously, Wake is getting older, Hayes is getting older, so those two guys might not be around for long. But we do have some solid defensive ends coming up, some young guys. There's Cameron Malveaux. He's shown some pretty impressive things. He's on third team with Branch as it stands, as you can see. And then there's Claudie Mathau. I don't remember Woodard or Redmond's first names. I apologize for that to the Dolphins fans and to the guys because I forgot your first names. Sorry. But anyway, so that's how that's listed currently. We'll see how that works out. All right, moving to linebackers. So the first team linebackers as it stands right now is Kiko Alonso, Raekwon McMillan, and Stephon Anthony. I actually think that could be how it ends up being for the season, how it could be projected for the season to shake out and to line up. But who knows? Who knows? We got some pretty good guys that are coming up behind him. Obviously, Jerome Baker. We have Chase Allen. They're both on second team, and then crap, what's his first name? Something. I can't remember Garvin's first name offhand right now, but he's also listed as third team. And then we have Mike Hull, Quentin Poling, and Frank Ginda coming up as third team. I'm sorry, Baker, Allen, and Garvin are second team. Hull, Poling, and Ginda are third team, and Kason Collins, the undrafted free agent, is fourth team. Now, for as far as who will keep, I definitely think Alonzo McMillan, Stephon Anthony, Jerome Baker, and Chase Allen will all be on this team. Now, Quentin Poling was a 7th round pick this year. Mike Hull's obviously been a special teams guy primarily, and an okay backup when he's been in. Terrence Garvin, I think that's his first name. I don't think Garvin's going to be here. Kason Collins is an interesting one. I don't know. It's really difficult. I don't think Frank Ginda's going to be here, although he was the leading tackler in college last year. I don't know. It's honestly, the linebackers are really difficult to call, especially since we haven't had the best play and production out of our linebackers in recent years. So that is definitely something to, watch and look out for. And we'll see how, it shakes out. All right, so moving to corners, they only have 2 corners listed. So, because we had 3 linebackers listed, we have 2 safeties and 2 corners listed for first team. So as it goes, right now, we have Howard and Bobby McCain listed as our first team corners, with McTyer and Tankersley as second team, Lippett and Jalen Davis as third team, Cornell Armstrong and Tavez Calhoun as fourth, and Trey Alston is fifth. We are super deep at corner this year. I think obviously Howard, McCain, McTyer, Tankersley, and Lippett, I believe, will all make the squad for sure. Jalen Davis has shown some good things. Tavez Calhoun has shown some good things. Cornell Armstrong obviously was a draft pick of ours this year. So that'll be really interesting to see as well. Trey Alston. Is it Trey Alston? I don't know. Because we have an Elston. The only difference in their name is one begins with an A, one begins with an E. It might be Trey Elston. He's a safety. Anyway. So going to the safeties, though, we start with Rashad Jones and TJ McDonald are listed as the first team guys. Maurice Smith and Minkah Fitzpatrick are listed as the second team. Jordan Lucas and Walt Aikens are third team, and then I think it is Trey Elston. Anyway, Elston is listed as fourth. Jones, McDonald, Fitzpatrick, Aikens, they'll all make the team for sure, and I think Maurice Smith has a pretty solid chance as well. I don't know, man. It's really, I have to say, it is really difficult to determine with a lot of these guys this year. With linebackers, cornerbacks, safeties, there's a lot of, it's hard to predict a lot of, the second and third team guys that are going to be, on this final 53-man roster, and then obviously who's going to be on the practice squad. So, I don't know. It's crazy. It's interesting. We shall see. All right, so going to the specialists, to special teams. Right now, as it is listed, our kicker is Jason Sanders. So that is our 7th round draft pick, our final draft pick of this year. That was the kicker we drafted. So Jason Sanders is officially listed as the first team guy. And then Greg Joseph is obviously behind him. So, it seems as if Sanders is going to be the front runner, and he has been performing a little bit better than Greg Joseph so far in the off-season program, OTAs, all the way through now, this portion of training camp that we've seen. Matt Hack is the punter. For kickoff, it's Sanders and then Joseph. The holder is Matt Hack, of course. Long snapper is currently John Denny to start with, and then Lucas Gravel coming up behind him, the undrafted free agent long snapper that we signed this year. Is a young up-and-coming long snapper who I feel will probably make a squad if he doesn't make the cut with us. It's hard to argue against Denny. I mean, he's getting older, but he is a long snapper, obviously, and he hasn't seen any drop-off at all. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting. Kickoff returns, Grant is listed as the number 1 guy, with Sonoris Perry coming up behind him, then Albert Wilson, then Kalen Ballage, then Torrey McTyer, and then Drake. So that's pretty interesting to see. It looks like Grant's going to get, a lot. I think Grant's going to get a lot of playing time this year, obviously with kickoff and punt returns, but I think he's definitely going to get, significant snaps at wide receiver as well. So he's moving up the depth chart overall. And it's good to see, man, because I think he's a scrappy little guy, and I think he deserves a spot in the NFL. And furthermore, I think he deserves a spot with us on this squad because obviously we drafted him, So he puts in the work. He makes his mistakes. Yes, he's not perfect, but he keeps building. He keeps getting better. And as long as he keeps doing that, I don't see any reason not to keep him on the team. And then punt return, so it's Grant with Amendola behind him, then Wilson behind him, then Drew Morgan, then Kenyon Drake. That's how the first official depth chart of the season, of the preseason, shakes out. As it stands right now, obviously things are going to change. There's going to be people cut. We have 90 guys right now. We're going to have to get down to 53. But we will get there throughout the next few weeks and the next few games. So if you guys, have any comments about, how you think the depth chart is going to end up shaking out, if you see any changes from the way it currently is, so on and so forth, definitely leave those comments down there. I'd like to talk about it. Like to see what you guys think. Obviously, if you like this video, please subscribe. Share it with your friends. Hit the like button and all that stuff. And I can't wait for Thursday. I'm super excited to see our guys on the field, playing against another team, even though we're not going to be, seeing the first team for very long, maybe just a series or two in this first game. But it's super exciting. It is almost here, guys. Let's get ready. And with that, I will sign off. I'll see you again soon, and fins up.